I know what a real man wants. I know your desires. I know your secrets. I know your innermost fantasies.
You've sort of made it be like an empowering thing.
Yeah, I get the most work done on the bottom. What am I doing on the top?
But Twitter wants its feelings hurt. Twitter wants to have a problem with anything that you say.
Now, Gabby Sidibe, she is good at keeping secrets.
And the Image Award goes to... yeah, Precious!
I love winning!
Today we're exploring the rocky start of Gabby Sidibe and how she was able to go from poverty, an eating disorder, depression, discrimination, fat shaming, and being a phone sex operator to becoming a successful Oscar nominee. We will explore her rise to the top against all odds and how she was able to meet and marry the love of her life. Chapter 1. Say my name. As Gabby walked down a stark hallway, she overheard two voices engaged in a passionate conversation. As she approached, the voices became clear. One voice was Lee Daniels, the director of Precious, the man who gave her her first acting role in a movie. He was talking to the infamous head honcho and editor of Vogue, Andre Leon Talley. That fat bitch will be on that cover. She is fabulous. Gabby was taken aback. Who could they possibly be talking about? Lee was not just a producer to her. He was more of a father figure than her own father. He was the first man to ever believe in her and tell her she was beautiful. So what Lee would do next would make or break their bond. She carefully approached the door, listening intently for Lee's response. Surprisingly, there was none. The only response was laughter from the pair. Then Lee skillfully redirected the conversation on their plans to revolutionize the fashion industry by putting Gabby on the cover. As she braced herself to walk through the doors and face them, she had a choice. Either she could be offended by the way they were speaking about her, or she could be thankful they even knew who she was in the first place. She chose to be offended, but she would do so in silence. Outwardly, she would put a smile on her face and pretend to have not overheard their conversation. It would turn out that Gabby would take pictures for Vogue, but she would never grace the covers. Speaking of father figures, Gabby's father is a very interesting character. He was born in Senegal and raised a devout Muslim. Her father, Ignu, would move to the U.S. to try his luck at the American pie. Once in America, Ignu quickly realized he would need to obtain citizenship in order to remain in the United States. He would go on to proposition Gabby's mother, Alice, to be his fake American wife. Unfortunately for Alice, she had been indoctrinated at an early age by her own mother to believe no one would ever love her because she was, quote, fat. So when Ignu offered the illegal fake marriage, Alice agreed. To no one's surprise, their marriage was loveless. The couple were neither in love nor intimate. This was strictly a business deal, although I'm not quite sure what Alice gained from this. Maybe proving her mother wrong and proving that she could marry someone? I don't know. But nevertheless, within a year of marriage, Alice had succumbed to Ignu's persistent wooing. In Gabby's book, This Is Just My Face, Gabby would go on to say she wasn't sure why her parents stayed together. They were polar opposites. Her father was always grumpy and irritated, and her mother was kind and thoughtful. She could only assume it was because they looked so much alike. They resembled brother and sister more so than husband and wife. She thought maybe the similarity made them feel comfortable and more at home. It would later be revealed after a blood test they were actually related. They both derived from the same bloodline. Doctors would recommend they did not have children due to health risk. but shortly after this recommendation, they would go on to have 2 children. Gabby Sidibe was born May 6, 1983, in Brooklyn, New York. Gabby took pride in her African Senegalese name, Gabby. In Hebrew, it means the power from the God. She felt so strongly about her name in elementary, she would not allow classmates to call her Gabby for short due to them not being able to pronounce her name, Gabby. This is even though kids at that time were calling her much worse names, such as Fatty, Hog, Dark, Elephant, and Fatso. Gabby insisted calling her Gabby was a personal insult to her pride, and she just wouldn't stand for it. The other names her classmates called her would hit her like a dagger, but her pride would cover her like a shield. Not until high school would she change her mind and allow others to call her Gabby. She thought if she relented a bit, it might be the catalyst for others to try to get to know her better and stop harassing her for her appearance. Gabby was a strong-willed child growing up in a very rough area of Brooklyn, New York in the 1980s. This was the height of the crack epidemic, and violence was at an all-time high. Her dad was in and out of the home, going back and forth to Africa to visit family. And when he was in the U.S., he spent most of his time as a cab driver. While at home, he was a grumpy Senegalese man who thought fear equaled respect, so he made sure his whole entire family feared him at all times. Gabby would go on to say he was a fun snatcher. He hated to hear anyone in the house laugh or have fun. Her mother, on the other hand, was full of joy and laughter. She was a teacher who would later go on to follow her passions of becoming a famous singer. She left her teaching career to hit the New York subways to sing for tips. She was a good singer, though. Gabby recalls spending a lot of time at the subway watching the passerbyers go wild over her mother's singing, to the point they sometimes would miss their train, all to hear Alice finish a song. Gabby remembers one time when Make-A-Wish actually reached out to Alice to fulfill a dying girl's wish of going to the subway to hear Alice sing One Last Time. While Alice was scrambling to make ends meet by singing her heart out every night, Ignu was in Senegal marrying his longtime mistress, Toli. He would eventually con Alice into signing paperwork agreeing to sponsor Toli to come to America. He was able to convince his wife his mistress was his cousin, who desperately needed to come to America. It would be revealed that Gabby's father's cousin was really his mistress, who was pregnant with their second child. Now, it was one thing for Alice to be in a loveless arranged marriage, but she was not willing to share. So soon after the news of the betrayal, Gabby's parents would divorce. Gabby's father and ex-mistress, now wife, Toli, stayed in the family home and went on to have several more kids, while Alice, Gabby, and her brother would move into a single-room apartment in Brooklyn where they would sleep in bunk beds and have absolutely no privacy for the next 15 years. During this time, Gabby would sit at home and make vision boards and write telenovelas to escape her bleak reality. One day while visiting her dad, her stepmother Toli, who was a performing psychic, predicted Gabby would be famous and meet the love of her life. At the time, Gabby thought maybe Toli was referring to her mother since she was the only star in the family. Gabby thought there was no way this could be true.
When I was 9, my dad's second wife, who did psychic readings out of her home, told me that I was going to be famous as Oprah.
Interestingly enough, not only would Toli's prediction come true, but everything that Gabby placed on her vision board would come true as well. Growing up, Gabby saw her virginity as a burden. She just wanted to be normal, like her friends who had experience in that department. To her, giving up her V card was a persistent thought in her mind. She started to contemplate how it would happen, with who, how would it feel, would it be like the romance novels, how would she feel afterwards? At 20, she decided to relinquish the burden by strategically deciding to give it away to a man she barely knew. She wanted to make sure after the deed was done, she would not have to worry about ever seeing him again. Between 20 and 24, she went through what you'd call a hoe phase by trying to find love in the arms of men, hoping that they would cure her depression and loneliness. But as we know, empty, meaningless sex has never been the cure. She would try to discuss her depression with her mother, but Alex was from the camp of, you just need to suck it up and deal with whatever life throws your way. Unfortunately, that answer has never helped anyone solve a problem ever in life, so Gabby's depression and anxiety persisted. Gabby was 21 and attending City College in New York when she first noticed she had panic attacks, which led to her throwing up afterwards. Her throwing up would help relieve the panic attacks, but it would turn into a full-fledged eating disorder of bulimia. Fortunately, she was able to reach out to the college campus nurse, and they were able to place her in a program to help resolve her depression, anxiety, and bulimia. Gabby soon lost her financial aid. Not having money to pay for college out of pocket, she turned to her guidance counselor, who recommended she put college on the back burner until she was able to find stable financial backing. In the meantime, she recommended Gabby find a job where she could utilize her talents for talking. Gabby scoured the newspaper until she found a job posting looking for a phone operator. The job was listed for $7 an hour plus 10 cents a minute, which doubled to 20 cents after 20 minutes and 30 cents after 30 minutes. This would come to be a phone sex operator position.
Hi, I know you're watching TV right now, but there's a new way, a completely different way to meet a girl just like me over the phone.
And let me make you feel like a real man.
We can talk about sports, music, work, life. So call now.
Hot. Call me now. Adults only.
Key aspects of a good phone sex operator. 1. Keep them on the phone as long as possible. 2. He'll tell you exactly what he wants. He leads, you listen. And 3, finesse the conversation. Let it marinate. Don't rush. Gabby is quoted saying, "Phone sex is like Netflix for the horny. You can be any woman of any race to fulfill any fantasy." And some of the top male fantasies, you may ask, were women being dominant, being submissive, horny housewives, mature women, and trans women with a large, you know what. Keep in mind, these are some of the principles that Gabby learned on day 1 of her orientation. After getting the job, Gabby would come to understand the psychology of men, whereas she initially thought men calling a hotline to talk dirty to women was a seedy, disgusting experience. She came to understand these men were just lonely and desperate to have someone show them just a little bit of attention. She would talk to men from all walks of life, such as doctors, lawyers, soldiers, everyday husbands, and fathers. She recalls taking her experience of what she learned and using it in the real world. Quote, "I learned how to talk to everyone. I learned how to flirt. I learned how to lead with my personality. I learned how to boldly ask for what I want. I learned that an average businessman deals with the same shame and smugness that we all deal with. Oh, and also, he may be wearing panties under his business suit, but that's his business." After 2 months of working as a talker, she received a promotion to receptionist, making $12 an hour. This wouldn't be enough to pay for college or move out of her mom's one-room apartment, but it was a step in the right direction. Gabby's mother would go on to perpetuate the same mentality her mother forced upon herself by telling Gabby she would never get married because she was too fat, and if she did not lose weight, she would have to settle for a man that she simply didn't love. The lack of feeling worthy of love would leave Gabby in a perpetual hamster wheel of attracting men that weren't right for her. She was consistently attracting the bad boy who was only around to use and abuse her. At 24, she met a man named Malik who was a cab driver. Malik had an accent, he was Muslim, and lacked all forms of personality. They exchanged numbers anyway, and that same night met up for dinner in Manhattan. Throughout the dinner, Gabby was bored. This man had no stimulating conversation whatsoever. He mainly discussed his homeland of Egypt, his passion for the Muslim faith, and his desire for marriage. After dropping Gabby off, he would call her later that night to profess he wanted to marry her. Without hesitation, Gabby asked Malik, did he really just need a green card? And he matter-of-factly said yes. Malik sensed a bit of a hesitation, so he sweetened the deal by offering to pay her for the arranged marriage. Ironically, this was the exact same situation Gabby's mother found herself in just 25 years earlier. So Gabby was no stranger to this type of arrangement, but she was at a crossroads. She could accept the offer and finally move out of the bunk beds of her mother's room and pay for college, or she could say no and walk away with her dignity. After weighing her options, she ultimately declined. Seeing what her mother went through, living in a sham of a marriage, she could not put herself through that. She also would not allow her mother to be right about not being good enough to find genuine love. She was determined to prove her mother wrong. 2 weeks after she declined the fake marriage, she was able to find financial aid and enroll back into college. 2 weeks after that, she was a movie star. Gabby would reluctantly go to an acting audition on a referral from her friend. The audition was on a Monday. She had met up with Lee Daniels on a Wednesday where he offered her the job. This was for the role of Precious. As her star was rising, so was her love life. She met a man who was interested in pursuing a long-term relationship with her. They dated for 3 long, arduous years. She referred to him as a horrible person. He couldn't stand her, and she couldn't stand him either. They were both pretending to be happy, but both miserable. It wasn't until a friend asked her if she was happy within herself. At this time, Precious the movie had been released. Her stardom had exploded. Basically, she had finally been able to make it out of the bunk beds. She was now famous, doing projects all across the world, in magazines, followed by paparazzi, and able to attend any Hollywood event of her choice. After seriously contemplating her friend's question, Gabby realized she wasn't happy. She didn't feel like she deserved any of the fame. Her friend explained to her boyfriend was merely a manifestation of her feelings about herself. Since she didn't feel worthy, she kept him around to reinforce the fact that she wasn't worthy. He only treated her like crap because that's what she wanted. That's what she felt about herself. Her friend reminded her, until she loves and appreciates herself, she will never get that from a guy. Fed up with the dating pool in LA, Gabby would take matters into her own hands. In 2019, she signed up for an online dating app. But not just any app. She signed up for Raya, an exclusive dating app for the stars. She soon became frustrated with the lack of diversity and contemplating canceling her profile. That was until she received a message from a man that would change her life.
I want to talk about your man, not explicitly, not just because we really hit it off.
The top to my bottom.
Your power top. But you guys met on a dating app, right?
Yeah, we met on Raya.
Dude, Raya, I met someone on Raya.
Okay.
That I was engaged to. Yeah, I
Okay.
know. Raya's real.
Gabby received a message from Brandon Frankel, a talent manager and chief business officer of a virtual concert production company. They would message back and forth, and Gabby would start to learn not only was he smart and liked cats, he instinctively picked up on her witty sarcasm. Gabby was starting to think he was way too good to be true. He was handsome, successful, physically fit. There must be a catch. He must want something just like all the rest of the men that she had dated. She would learn he wanted nothing from her but to love her. They started dating, and it became immediately clear he was very attracted to her. Unlike the previous men she had dated, he was proud to show her off to the world. He introduced her to his family, his friends. He even defended her online when others shamed her for her looks or asked her why she was still fat even though she was rich and famous. And when other women tried to talk to him online and slide in his DMs, he was quick to show Gabby and let her know. Brandon saw the beauty inside of Gabby that few others had taken the time to see. On New Year's Eve 2019, they went public with their romance. Brandon wrote, "I love you more and more every single day, which seems impossible but continuously amazes me." Gabby replies, "You're the cherry on top of this last decade and the foundation of the next." Fast forward to 2020, Brandon proposes to Gabby. In an interview in 2022 with Kelly and Ryan, Gabby discusses her proposal and lets the cat out of the bag about them secretly being married.
How are you?
I'm doing really good. Really, really good.
You did something kind of amazing during the pandemic.
Uh-oh.
You got engaged.
Yeah, I did. Thank you.
So many relationships fell apart.
Not mine. Here's an example of how much I don't like weddings. I'm actually married. We got married over a year ago.
Oh my God, is that true?
Yeah. We've been married since 2001. No, wait.
Conclusion. There is something about Gabby that we can all learn from. Through her life setbacks, she didn't let it get her down. She turned every bad situation into something good. Even though every person in her life has failed her, instead of being bitter or falling into her mother's footsteps, accepting a loveless marriage, she wanted better for herself. She sought help and did the work to heal. This leads me to an important topic that most don't realize. Seduction is not about looks. It's about seducing with the mind. Gabby has truly seduced her way to the top. From landing jobs, movie roles, to landing her husband, she took what she learned as a sex operator and utilized it into her real life. The brilliance of Gabby is that she took what she learned and implemented it. The best way this is shown is through her interviews. Every interview I watch of her, she is charismatic, funny, outgoing, jovial, full of life and personality. She makes you feel like she's your best friend and everybody wants to be around her. It's as if she put them in a trance.
Like, I don't know how close we are, but I feel really close to you, which is not deserved. I haven't earned the right to feel close to you.
A lot of people do.
What is that? Why?
I think, I don't know. I think because I'm like pretty much myself in interviews, so people feel like they actually know me in a way.
Too authentic.
Yeah, that's what Ellen told me.
It's back.
Gabby teaches us to run our own race and to truly appreciate our beauty from the inside. It's not until you love yourself and appreciate all that you bring to the world that others will truly appreciate you as well. How you feel about yourself is a direct reflection of how others will see you. As it pertains to Gabby Sidibe, she is a bright, beautiful light that is winning in the game of life and the game of love. Until next time.